welcome to I-24 News Defense, your weekly review of strategic affairs, security intelligence, and more, brought to you in cooperation with Israel Defense Magazine. Tonight we'll get a first glimpse at the Israeli Navy's newest submarine base. We'll also discuss the recent attack on Hezbollah targets in the Lebanon-Syrian border and explore the future of intelligence gathering. But before we begin, let's take a look at what else is happening in the world here.
We begin in Syria. The head of al-Qaeda's wing has given rival Islamist militants an ultimatum to accept mediation to end their fighting. Abu Muhammad al-Golani, leader of the Nusra Front, called on the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant group to agree to arbitration by religious scholars to end more than a year of clashes, which have led to hundreds of deaths and have undermined the wider military campaign against President Bashar al-Assad's forces. Moving to Egypt, 26 people were sentenced to death after they were convicted of founding a terror group and of manufacturing missiles and explosives. According to reports, the group aimed to target ships traveling in the Suez Canal. The sentencing comes one day after the country's designate prime minister vowed to crush terror in Egypt. And the final U.S. tanker aircraft supporting military operations in Afghanistan departed a Kyrgyzstan airbase ahead of the closure of the facility later this year. An agreement with Kyrgyzstan that provides for the United States Transit Center at the Manas airport, the country's largest, is slated to expire in July. The airbase opened at Manas, outside the capital Bishkek, 3 months after the 9/11 attacks in 2001, to support U.S.-led coalition forces in the invasion of Afghanistan.
Back here, the Northern Front is in the headlines again. In a rare opportunity, the Israeli Navy allowed reporters to visit its upcoming submarine base in Haifa. Before we discuss the most recent developments, here's more in this report.
Following Lebanese media reports that Israel struck a shipment of Hezbollah weapons on the Lebanon-Syria border Monday, the Israeli Navy has for the first time allowed a glimpse of Polinom, the new submarine base being built in Haifa to host the new Dolphin-class submarines planned to arrive in Israel from Germany later this year.
In the last year, the submarine flotilla carried out thousands of operational hours, some of them special operations. The submarine's special ability to secretly penetrate enemy lines, to gather intelligence and to strike if necessary, makes it a very unique tool for the IDF.
Talking to reporters, Israeli Navy senior officer referred to the northern maritime arena.
The major players in the arena, Syria and Hezbollah, are active and relevant. In contrast to the Syrian government, the Syrian Navy is highly operational, training and being equipped with advanced weaponry. Hezbollah has not stopped for a second to try get its hands on advanced marine weaponry, the type that will give it influence on the day of reckoning.
The naval commander refused to respond to the reports about an alleged Israeli aerial attack in the Bekaa Valley, but did drop a hint.
The efforts of the organizations, including Hezbollah, to get their hands on weapons are not ceasing, and we are obliged to deal with their desire.
Joining me now in the studio is Or Heller, the military correspondent for Israeli Channel 10. Good evening, Or.
Hi, good evening, Adas.
You visited that base, and it seems like the Israeli Navy is more and more active up north.
Yes, I think that the Israeli Navy understands its role since the last few years to be the eyes and to be the ears of the Israeli, not only the Israeli Navy, but to be the ears and the eyes of the Israeli intelligence. You know, submarines can go to the Syrian shores, to the Lebanese shore, to the Iranian shores, and to do intelligence work over there
without being discovered.
Without being discovered, and this is the main, I think, function. And according to foreign sources, they have the second, the capability to shoot nuclear missiles in order to retaliate upon attacks on Israel.
And when you say in the past few years, it means that the IDF failed to understand that the Navy is a crucial part of the game, a game changer?
Well, along the years, the Navy commanders leaders and the heads of the IDF didn't want the submarines. They thought that it is a waste of money. It's too expensive, and that Israel do not need it. But they preferred the vessels, the ships. And I think that in the last few years, regarding the strategic changes in the Middle East with the Iranian nuclear program, etc., I think that the Israeli Navy understood that his role is not only to be a coast guard, an Israeli coast guard, but to be a strategic navy in the whole of the Middle East.
I wanted to discuss with you the latest airstrike on Hezbollah targets in the past 2 years. Alleged. But this time it's not alleged.
Yeah.
This time there's a confirmation. Why is that?
Well, I think that after 6 alleged air attacks by the Israeli Air Force in Lebanon and Syria in the last 1 year, I think that Hezbollah, in his messages, wanted to deterrent Israel to make another attacks, because I think we have here a ball game between the players, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, and of course Iran behind of all this. You remember the Major General Benny Gantz, the head of the Israeli army, 1 day before the alleged attack, going to the Syrian border and saying that the Iranians are giving matches to
any chance
to
for
pyramids.
retaliation from Hezbollah side, according there is tension in
there is an increasing tension in the northern border. We've seen yesterday the Iron Dome batteries.
Your estimation?
Well, I think that the interest of Hezbollah for now is not to go to the third Lebanese war, and I think that he in his effort in the Syrian war he would ask to make his retaliation cold as possible and far as possible.
Oh, hello. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Adas.
Moving on. In 1985, Israel started a series of covert operations in order to bring the Jews of Ethiopia to Israel. One of them, which was documented, occurred late at night with the participation of Israeli Mossad operatives and the Israeli Air Force. The images of the highly dangerous operation have now been released. Let's take a look.
Friday, February 28, 1987, 2 a.m. After a 5-hour low-altitude flight, an Israeli Hercules aircraft lands in the middle of the desert of Sudan, one of the most hostile countries to Israel. The landing is performed in total darkness, using night vision devices to avoid the suspicion of the Sudanese army. The improvised runway was scrupulously chosen by the Mossad agents in charge of the operation. The rear door opens. The movements are precise, finely orchestrated during the many trainings held in the Negev, the Israeli desert, months before. 12 minutes. That's how long it will take for the special forces to pick up the Ethiopian Jews waiting near the empty truck. It all happens very fast. Once on board, the refugees are counted and the doors of the Hercules close. The Mossad agents can now hug each other and erupt with joy. But they will stay on Sudanese ground to make sure no trace of Israeli presence has remained. Inside the aircraft, the figures finally start to take form. Women, children, elderly people, all en route to Israel. A modern era exodus.
In today's world, everything is posted on the web, from embarrassing moments to dramatic events. The information revolution has brought many changes to the intelligence field. I-24 News correspondent Eli Hochenberg explains.
Tahrir Square, Madrid, Tel Aviv, Caracas, Bangkok, and recently Kiev, all major civil revolutions which brought out millions of people, historical events that are changing the world. All of these major turning points are managed by society's most common tool, the internet. In today's reality, it takes nothing more than one post, one social media forum, one WhatsApp group to trigger the masses to head to the streets. IOTT tries to identify those actions from the very beginning.
The idea is to understand when is the trend become some kind of a threat to the government. And this is the main challenge.
IOTT is similar to a futuristic private agent. It specializes in tracking a target based only on the fewest details, collecting the largest possible information about it, and then act, all and solely via technology.
We are building operational unit, intelligence operational unit, with technology. So we are completing technology and intelligence know-how.
This expertise is not only used to assist governments to monitor violent uprisings, crime, organ trafficking, and much more, but supports highly important figures too by using its widespread arms.
3 weeks ago, we received submission. One of the richest person in the world, he went to the Super Bowl, and they asked us to see who is talking about him in the network. We found that in the dark web, they sell his social security number.
The biggest question, what about privacy? According to Mr. Timianka, it's already non-existing.
People know you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook, you don't have privacy. Because you are uploading your life in the Facebook, not because someone else.
And where exactly are we heading? The full power of technology has yet to be tested. But for IOTT, one thing is certain. If there will be, God forbid, a third world war, the weapons will not be aircraft or tanks.
The issue of big military against big military is not here today. And tanks are not here today. Today is only intelligence.
Joining me now is Brigadier General Reserves Amnon Sufrin, an intelligence expert. Good evening.
Good evening.
So basically, it's easier to gather intel nowadays, right?
No.
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 Why is that? The intel is just
gathering information is combined of some elements, not only one. One of them in the internet and on the open sources. It's easier to collect or to gather information from open sources today regarding to, let's say, how do the people react, what do they plan, and do we see some, let's say, new Arab Spring like we saw in the last few years. On the other hand, all the, let's say, concealed and covert information is going through secure channels, and you still have to gather information in other systems
channels.
and other ways.
So it's not easier, but is it harder to keep the info from leaking out?
Yeah, in some way, because you have people that take care of leaking it out, like WikiLeaks or like Snowden in the US and other people like that. But let's say most of the concealed and secret information will go through secure channels, in small rooms, in intimate acquaintance with people who are talking to each other, not sending messages and not sending emails, especially not emails, because emails is easy to detect and easy to find out.
What are the challenges that the intelligence community is facing nowadays?
What are the challenges?
Yes.
There are a few challenges. I think the first one is to see non-conventional weapons all around the world. We are focusing on Iran because it is our unique problem, but it's not only ours. And you have to know and to get sure that Iran is really dismantling its capabilities or not going on with its nuclear program. This is our problem, but the whole world is looking at it because they're having an agreement with Iran. That's one. The second one is what is the survivability of regimes in the other places of the world, not only in the Middle East. In the Middle East, we have revolutions over revolutions. Let's say, for example, in Egypt, you have 2 revolutions, and the third one is on the way right now, when you're going to have new elections for presidency and so on. Other places, what happens in the Ukraine now? Some, let's say, revolution of the people that threw out Yanukovych and took him out of Ukraine to Russia. And you have to get aware of the fact that the people have power today. They are willing to face the regime. They're not surrendering anymore. They're not keeping low profile. And they're willing to go out and get what they will.
Do you see a world with less threatening secret services?
No. Not yet. Not yet. We're not there yet.
Why?
I think because of the challenges, because let's say not only non-conventional weapons, let's speak about global terrorism surrounding the world and approaching Israel, for example, all around our neighbors, in Sinai Desert, in Sinai Peninsula, in the Golan Heights, in every other places, very close to our borders. Do we have to keep quiet and say, okay, they don't harm us? Or do we have to keep an open eye? And we are doing that because this is a threat for us. So we can't keep quiet and say, okay, everything is calm, let's go on.
So do you believe that the extreme measurements are needed because of the threats?
Yeah, still. We still have to keep an open eye. We still have to take caution measures and not to be, let's say, not to be very, very quiet and say, okay, everything is okay. Because we have to be aware that new threats are coming every day, even in the cyber field.
Right. Amnon Sofrin, thank you so much for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
And that is all we have time for. Be sure to catch us next week for another edition of I-24 News Defense. For all the latest headlines, log on to www.i24news.tv. Have a safe night from Jaffa Port.